The Jacquerie ships appeared in the sky as they did every month. Large black vessels with jagged edges that cut through the clouds. The people of Settlement 12 stopped what they were doing and looked up. Children were quickly pulled inside homes. Doors shut. Voices hushed. John Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched from the entrance of the mine. His hands were rough from years of breaking rocks and digging for the glowing blue crystals the Jacquerie demanded. He knew he should get back to work before the overseers noticed, but he couldn't look away. "Main ship's bigger this time," said Pete, an older miner with a gray beard. "That's never good news." John nodded. "Supply drops not for another week. Must be an inspection." Both men returned to their tools, working faster now. When the Jacquerie conducted inspections, quotas went up. Anyone who failed to meet them disappeared. The aliens had ruled this sector of space for over 100 years. They came with weapons humans had never seen and took what they wanted. Earth tried to fight back at first, but the Jacquerie destroyed whole cities to make a point. Now 15 colonies paid tribute to their alien masters. At the edge of the settlement, the largest Jacquerie ship landed. Its engines kicked up dust that coated everything for half a mile. The loading ramp extended and touched the ground with a heavy thud. Grand Overseer Vexthal was the first to exit. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his exoskeleton a deep purple that gleamed in the sunlight. 4 arms hung at his sides, each ending in clawed hands. His face was a nightmare of compound eyes and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. "Gather the humans," he ordered his guards in a voice that sounded like stones grinding together. Sirens blared across Settlement 12. Everyone knew what this meant. John dropped his pickaxe and joined the stream of dirty, tired workers heading to the central square. He looked for his wife and daughter in the crowd forming there. Kate Miller stood near the back, her medical assistant uniform stained with blood from the morning's treatments. She held their 7-year-old daughter Lily's hand tightly. When she saw John, relief crossed her face. "Why are they here?" Lily asked, her small voice trembling. "Just be quiet and keep your eyes down," Kate whispered. "Remember what we practiced." Lily nodded. She had been born under Jacquerie rule and had learned early what happened to children who drew attention to themselves. The square filled with hundreds of humans standing in perfect rows. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was the heavy footsteps of the Jacquerie guards as they patrolled the edges, shock batons ready. Grand Overseer Vexthal stepped onto the raised platform at the center. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he surveyed the humans. "Settlement 12 has failed to meet its quota for the 3rd consecutive month," he announced. The translator device at his throat converted his clicks and hisses into flat, emotionless English. "The Jacquerie Empire requires your resources. Your compliance is not optional." A murmur passed through the crowd and was instantly silenced by the crack of a shock baton against someone's back. "To ensure better performance, new measures will be implemented," Vexthal continued. "Work hours will increase by 4 per day. Rations will decrease by 20% until quotas are met, and to demonstrate the cost of continued failure." He gestured to his guards. They dragged forward a man John recognized as the mine supervisor. The man's face was bloodied, one eye swollen shut. "Supervisor Gray has failed to motivate adequate production," Vexthal announced. "His position is terminated." Without warning, one of the guards drove a blade into Greg's chest. The crowd remained silent as his body fell to the ground. No one moved to help him. No one dared. "The new supervisor will be selected tomorrow," Vexthal said, as if nothing had happened. "Production will increase immediately." John felt Lily press against his leg, hiding her face. He placed a protective hand on her shoulder, keeping his expression carefully blank despite the rage building inside him. As the Jacquerie filed back onto their ship, humans remained in formation, eyes down, bodies still. Only when the ship lifted off did anyone dare move. "One day," John whispered to Kate as they walked home, Lily between them, "one day they'll learn humans aren't meant to be slaves." Kate squeezed his hand in warning. not where they can hear you. Above them, the Jokeri ships vanished into the clouds, leaving behind only fear and the promise of their return. The Miller family's home was small but clean. A single room with curtains dividing the sleeping areas from the living space. Kate had hung drawings made by Lily on the walls, adding color to the gray prefabricated shelter the Jokeri provided for workers. John sat at their small table, wincing as Kate cleaned a cut on his shoulder. The new mine supervisor, a human named Paul who was known for his loyalty to the Jokeri, had pushed production harder than ever today. "You need to be more careful," Kate said softly. "Paul's looking for reasons to report people." "Hard to be careful when the support beams are rotting," John replied. "We told him they need replacing. He says the quota comes first." Lily sat on her bed, pretending to read one of the approved Jokeri learning tablets. In reality, she was listening to every word her parents said. Children in Settlement 12 learned early to gather information while appearing occupied. "Did you hear about the Jacksons?" Kate asked as she bandaged John's shoulder. Their oldest boy, Sam, was selected for advanced education yesterday. John's face darkened. Advanced education was what the Jokeri called it when they took human children to work in their ships. Few ever returned, and those who did were never the same. "Sam's only 12, John said. "They're taking them younger now. They say humans learn better if they start earlier." Kate's voice was neutral, but her hands trembled slightly as she packed away her medical supplies. They both looked at Lily, who kept her eyes fixed on her tablet. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, John slipped outside. The curfew had begun, but he stayed in the shadows between buildings. At the edge of the settlement, near the waste processing plant, he knocked 3 times on the door of a maintenance shed. The door opened just enough for him to enter. Inside, 5 other men and women waited. This was the real reason the mines had failed to meet their quotas. Key workers were part of the resistance, sabotaging production just enough to cause problems without triggering mass punishments. "They took Sam Jackson yesterday," said Alice, a thin woman who worked in communications. "His parents are broken." "We're moving too slowly," said Hank, a former soldier from before the invasion. "At this rate, there won't be a next generation to free." John leaned against the wall. "I passed the eastern sensor grid today. Counted the patrols like you asked." He pulled out a small piece of paper with numbers written on it. Alice took it and nodded. "Their patterns are changing," she said. "They're getting nervous about something." "It's not just us," Hank said. "Word from Settlement 8 is they had a full rebellion last month. Jokeri wiped out half the population, but not before the humans destroyed a weapons cache." Hope flickered across several faces. Settlement 8 was over 1,000 miles away. If resistance was growing there too. "We need to be smart," John cautioned. "Whatever we do, we can't give them a reason to target our families." The meeting continued for another hour. Plans were made, information shared, small acts of defiance coordinated. It wasn't much, but it kept hope alive. As John walked home in the darkness, a Jokeri patrol ship passed overhead, its searchlight sweeping the ground. He froze against a wall until it passed. The alien craft hummed with energy as it disappeared into the night. At home, he found Kate still awake, sitting beside Lily's bed. "She had the dream again," Kate whispered. "The one about the ships taking her away." John knelt beside his daughter's bed. Even in sleep, Lily's face wasn't peaceful. All the children in Settlement 12 had nightmares. "One day, she'll dream of something better," John promised. Kate took his hand. "Did you meet the others?" He nodded. "Something's happening. The Jokeri are changing their patterns, increasing security." "They're afraid," Kate said. "They should be," John replied. Outside, another patrol ship passed, its engines a constant reminder of who ruled their world. But in the small home of the Miller family, a dangerous thing took root and grew stronger each day. The one thing the Jokeri could never fully crush. Hope. The morning siren woke Settlement 12 as it did every day. Lily rubbed her eyes as her mother helped her dress. Education Center today? Lily asked, though she already knew the answer. Kate nodded, braiding Lily's brown hair. Remember what we've practiced. Eyes down. Speak only when spoken to. I know, Mom, Lily said. She could recite the rules by heart. All children could. John entered from outside, where he'd been collecting their water ration for the day. His face was grim. What's wrong? Kate asked quietly. Supply shipment's been cut again, he said. And there's a new Jakari commander arriving today. Someone called Prazkor. Kate's hands paused in Lily's hair. I heard that name. The medical staff at the central facility mentioned him. He's from the military division, not administration. The family ate a small breakfast of synthetic protein and the precious real apple John had traded for last week. They saved most of it for Lily. Growing children needed real food, not just the processed rations the Jakari provided. Afterward, John headed to the mines while Kate walked Lily to the education center. The building was one of the largest in Settlement 12, a stark metal structure with the Jakari emblem. A jagged claw grasping a star displayed prominently above the entrance. I'll pick you up at the end of session, Kate said, hugging Lily quickly before a Jakari overseer could see the display of affection. Such things were discouraged as inefficient emotional behavior. Inside, Lily joined 20 other children her age. They sat at desks arranged in perfect rows, backs straight, eyes forward. Their teacher was human. The Jakari considered teaching beneath them, but the curriculum was strictly controlled. Today we learn about the benevolence of the Jakari Empire, the teacher announced, her voice flat. Without their guidance, humanity would still be confined to primitive technology and limited resources. The morning passed slowly. Lily recited the expected responses and completed her assignments. During the brief meal break, she sat with her friend Ben, a small boy with glasses too big for his face. My dad says there's a new commander, Ben whispered. Mine too, Lily replied quietly. They say he's. She stopped speaking as a shadow fell across their table. The children looked up to see a Jakari standing there. Unlike the usual overseers, this one wore armor decorated with red symbols. His exoskeleton was darker than most, almost black, and scared from battle. Commander Drazkor surveyed the children with compound eyes that reflected their frightened faces. Continue your meal, he said, his translator making the words sound like gravel being crushed. I am merely observing the education process. The children returned to eating, eyes down, movement small. Drazkor moved through the room, occasionally stopping to examine something or someone more closely. When the meal break ended, the children filed back to their classroom. Drazkor followed, standing at the back as the teacher resumed the lesson. The Jakari value efficiency above all, she was saying. By eliminating inefficient human behaviors, they have improved our productivity by 73%. Insufficient. Drazkor interrupted. The central authority has determined that productivity should increase by minimum 85%. The teacher paled. Of course, Commander. I will adjust the curriculum. See that you do. Drazkor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation that all humans had learned to recognize. These offspring appear adequately compliant, but they must understand their purpose better. He approached Lily's desk, towering over her. You, female offspring. What is your designation? Lily swallowed hard. Settlement 12 to 27 Miller, sir. And what is your purpose in the Empire? Lily recited the answer all children were taught. To serve the greater glory of the Jakari through obedient labor and resource acquisition. Drazkor made a sound that might have been approval. Remember that purpose. Those who forget do not survive long. As he left the classroom, the teacher resumed the lesson with shaking hands. Lily stared at her desk, trying to become invisible. Something about the new commander felt different from the others, more dangerous. That evening, when Kate came to collect her, Lily was unusually quiet. What's wrong? Kate asked as they walked home. I met the new commander, Lily said softly. "Mom, I'm scared." A week passed, and life in Settlement 12 grew harder. The mines demanded more output with fewer workers. Food rations shrank. The Jacquerie patrols doubled. John returned home later each night, his body aching from the longer shifts. Kate treated more injuries at the medical center than ever before. But worst of all was the change in Lily. "She barely speaks now," Kate told John as they lay in bed, voices hushed. "That commander visits the education center every day. The children are terrified of him." John stared at the ceiling. "It's happening in the mines too. Drazkor inspects twice daily. Yesterday, he took a worker away for stopping to drink water." "What can we do?" Kate asked. John was silent for a long moment. "The resistance meeting is tomorrow. Maybe there's news from the other settlements." The next day brought a rare event, a public address. All humans were ordered to gather in the central square. The Miller family stood together, Lily between her parents, as Commander Drazkor took the platform. "Settlement 12 continues to disappoint the Empire," Drazkor announced. His armor gleamed in the sunlight, the red symbols appearing like blood against the black exoskeleton. "Resources are being diverted from the war effort due to your inefficiency." A murmur passed through the crowd. "War effort?" The Jacquerie hadn't mentioned a war before. Silence. Drazkor snapped. "New measures will be implemented immediately. Curfew begins 1 hour earlier. Rations reduced by additional 15%. All children over age 6 will now assist in the processing plant after education hours." Kate's grip on Lily's hand tightened. The processing plant was where raw crystals from the mine were refined. Dangerous work even for adults, with toxic dust and heavy machinery. Additionally, Drazkor continued, "Any human found violating regulations will be publicly disciplined. The time for tolerance has ended." As if to demonstrate, he gestured to his guards. They dragged forward a woman John recognized as Mia from the communications center. She had been caught passing messages between settlements, part of the resistance network. "This female has committed treason against the Empire," Drazkor announced. "The penalty is death." Before anyone could react, Drazkor himself stepped forward and with one swift motion of his clawed hand, slashed across Mia's throat. She fell to the ground, blood pooling beneath her. Lily buried her face against John's leg. He wanted to cover her eyes, to protect her from seeing such brutality, but knew any movement now would draw attention. "Return to your duties," Drazkor ordered. "Productivity will increase by tomorrow, or more examples will be necessary." The crowd dispersed slowly, heads down, fear palpable in the air. The Millers walked home in silence, Lily clinging to her mother's hand. That night, the resistance meeting was somber. Alice wasn't there. She'd been too close to Mia, and staying away was safer for everyone. "We can't wait any longer," Hank said, his voice tight with anger. "They're working us to death, and now they'll put our children in the processing plant." "What about the other settlements?" John asked. The plan was to move together. A woman named Rita spoke up. "I received a coded message from Settlement 8 before communications were restricted. They're ready. Settlement 5 and 9 too." "Then it's time," Hank said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. "This came in with the last supply drop. It's a transmitter. One signal, and all the settlements will know it's begun." John stared at the device. "What about the Jacquerie ships? They'd destroy us before we could organize." "Not if we hit their communication array first," Rita said. "Without it, they can't call for reinforcements. We'd have a chance." They argued late into the night, weighing risks against the growing certainty that waiting would only lead to more deaths. Finally, they agreed. In 3 days, they would make their move. As John walked home, the weight of what they planned sat heavy on his shoulders. He had always known this day might come, but now that it was here, the fear was overwhelming. Not for himself, but for Kate and Lily. Above him, a Jacquerie patrol ship passed, its searchlights sweeping the ground. In 3 days, everything would change. He just had to keep his family safe until then. The first day of children working in the processing plant ended with 3 injured. Kate treated them at the medical center, her hands gentle but her eyes hard with anger. One boy had inhaled crystal dust and couldn't stop coughing. Another had burns from the refining acid. The third, a girl no older than 8, had crushed fingers from a machine press. "Keep them here tonight," the Jacquerie medical overseer ordered Kate. They returned to work tomorrow. Kate wanted to argue but knew better. She made the children as comfortable as possible, using precious medical supplies she had been saving for emergencies. Lily had come home exhausted but unharmed. Now she slept fitfully while John sat at their table, reviewing the resistance plan one last time with Rita, who had slipped in through the back entrance. "The communication array is here," Rita whispered, pointing to a rough map. 4 guards at all times. We need to get past them, plant the charges, and be clear before detonation. "And the children?" John asked. "Ben's father will create a distraction at the education center. The children will be moved to emergency shelters. That's when we get them out." John nodded. "What about Grand Overseer Vexthal?" "He's off-world until the day after tomorrow. That's why we move tomorrow. Draskor is dangerous, but he doesn't have Vexthal's experience with human resistance." After Rita left, John checked on Lily. Her small face was pinched with worry even in sleep. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and promised silently that tomorrow would be the last day she ever had to fear the Jacquerie. The next morning began like any other. The siren, the meager breakfast, the walk to assigned duties. But there was tension in the air, a current of nervous energy that even the Jacquerie seemed to notice. Patrols were increased. Guards watched more closely. John went to the mines as usual, but carried a small explosive device hidden in his boot. 3 other miners had similar devices. At precisely noon, they would create a distraction while another team hit the communication array. At the education center, Lily noticed more guards than normal. Commander Draskor himself stood at the entrance, inspecting each child as they entered. When it was Lily's turn, he stared at her with his compound eyes. "Settlement 12 to 27 Miller," he said, recalling her designation. "Your biological donor works in Central Medical, correct?" "Yes, sir," Lily replied, eyes down as she'd been taught. "Proceed." Draskor waved her inside, but his gaze lingered too long. At 11:30, an emergency alarm sounded. Children looked up from their lessons in confusion. Their teacher received instructions through her earpiece and nodded. "All children will proceed to the emergency shelter immediately," she announced. "This is not a drill." They lined up as practiced and began moving toward the shelter, a reinforced building near the center of the settlement. Halfway there, the sound of an explosion rocked the ground beneath their feet. The teacher hurried them along, but the Jacquerie guards suddenly seemed uncertain, receiving conflicting orders through their communication devices. That's when Ben's father appeared, running toward the line of children. "Fire in the processing plant," he shouted. "All children from Sector 4, come with me." Several children, including Lily, were pulled from the line. The guards hesitated, then focused on getting the remaining children to the main shelter. Ben's father led them quickly down a side street. "Your parents are waiting at the emergency point," he told them. "We have to hurry." Another explosion, larger than the first, shook the settlement. The communication array, Lily realized. The plan was working. They turned a corner and found themselves face to face with Commander Draskor and 2 guards. "Unauthorized movement during emergency protocols," Draskor said, his voice cold through the translator. "Explain." "Taking the children to Sector Shelter 4, sir," Ben's father said, his voice steady despite his fear. Draskor's compound eyes shifted to the children, lingering on Lily. "Sector 4 was not instructed to evacuate." "You are lying." He raised his communicator, but before he could speak, the device sparked and went dead. The communication array was down. "Run," Ben's father shouted, pushing the children behind him as he faced the Jacquerie. "Run now." Lily and the others turned and fled as sounds of struggle erupted behind them. None looked back. They had been told what to do if separated from their guide: get to the old storage tunnels where the resistance had a meeting point. As they ran, sirens blared across Settlement 12. The revolution had begun. Lily led the other children through narrow streets. She knew the way to the storage tunnels. All children in the resistance families did. They had practiced in secret games disguised as play. "This way," she whispered, pulling Ben's arm as he tried to look back. "We can't stop." Behind them, the settlement had erupted into chaos. More explosions sounded from the direction of the landing pads, where the Jacquerie kept their smaller ships. Smoke rose in thick black columns. The alien guards ran in all directions, their usual order broken by the disabled communication system. At the mines, John and the other workers had overwhelmed their supervisors. Years of pretending to be weaker than they were had fooled the Jacquerie. Now the humans fought with hidden weapons and desperate strength. John fought his way toward the central area, needing to find Kate and Lily. Kate had locked the medical center doors when the alarm sounded. She gathered medical supplies and helped the injured children hide. When Jacquerie guards tried to enter, they found the doors barricaded. They might have broken through, but were called away to deal with the growing rebellion elsewhere. "Stay hidden," Kate told the children. "I need to find my daughter." She slipped out through a service entrance, a medical bag slung over her shoulder and a surgical blade hidden in her sleeve. The streets were dangerous now, with Jacquerie soldiers firing on any humans they saw. Kate kept to the shadows, working her way toward the education center. Lily and the small group of children reached the storage tunnels, old maintenance passages beneath the settlement that the Jacquerie rarely patrolled. They climbed down through a hidden entrance behind a waste container. "We made it," Ben said, his voice shaking with relief. But as they moved deeper into the tunnels, they heard heavy footsteps behind them. Commander Draskor had followed. "Human offspring cannot hide from me," his voice echoed in the tunnel. "Your heat signatures are visible to my eyes." The children ran faster, turning down side passages, trying to reach the meeting point where adults would be waiting. They could hear Draskor gaining on them, his larger strides covering more ground. There, Ben pointed ahead to a junction where the tunnel opened into a larger room, the old water processing area that the resistance used as a gathering point. But as they rushed in, they found it empty. No adults, no resistance members. Something had gone wrong with the plan. "Find places to hide," Lily told the others. "Quick." The children scattered, ducking behind old equipment and storage containers. Lily slipped beneath a deactivated conveyor belt, pulling Ben down beside her. They huddled together, trying to control their breathing. Draskor entered the room slowly, his head turning as he scanned for heat signatures. "I can sense your fear," he said. "It has a scent, like burned metal." He moved methodically through the room, checking each hiding spot. When he reached a large container, he tipped it over, revealing a small girl hiding inside. She screamed as he grabbed her with one clawed hand. "Where are the others?" Draskor demanded. The girl was too frightened to speak. Draskor shook her roughly. "Answer me, human offspring." "Leave her alone." Lily couldn't help herself. She stood up from her hiding place, fists clenched at her sides. Draskor dropped the girl and turned toward Lily. "The troublemaker reveals herself." "I'm not afraid of you," Lily said, though her voice trembled. "You should be." Draskor moved toward her with frightening speed. Suddenly, the door to the room burst open. John rushed in, a mining tool gripped in his hands like a weapon. Behind him came Kate and several other adults, armed with whatever they had found. "Get away from my daughter," John growled. Draskor turned, assessing the new threat. Even without his guards, he was formidable. His armored exoskeleton protected him from most human weapons, and his natural strength was greater than any human's. "The rebellion will fail," Draskor said. "The Empire will send more ships, more soldiers. You will all die." "Maybe," John admitted. But not today, and not before you. He launched himself at the alien commander, the other adults following. Kate circled around the fighting, trying to reach Lily and the other children. "Run," she shouted to them. "Get to the surface exit." Lily hesitated, watching her father battle the terrifying alien who had haunted her nightmares. She couldn't leave him. She wouldn't. The fight between John and Commander Drazkor was brutal. The Jacquerie moved with frightening speed, his 4 arms lashing out at the humans surrounding him. 2 resistance fighters already lay motionless on the ground. John fought with desperate energy, knowing that if they failed here, Lily and Kate would never escape. Kate had reached the children and was hurrying them toward the exit tunnel. "Lily, we have to go," she urged, grabbing her daughter's arm. "But Dad," Lily's eyes were fixed on her father as he dodged a strike from Drazkor. "Your father knows what he's doing," Kate said, though fear made her voice shake. "We need to get you children to safety." Reluctantly, Lily allowed herself to be pulled toward the exit. Just as they reached it, a terrible sound made her turn back. John had been struck hard, thrown against the wall by Drazkor's powerful blow. He slumped to the floor, blood streaming from a gash on his head. "Dad!" Lily screamed, breaking free from Kate's grip. She ran back into the room. Drazkor turned at the sound of her voice. The other fighters tried to distract him, but the alien commander was focused solely on the small human child running toward her fallen father. "The offspring shows attachment," Drazkor said, his voice cold through the translator. "A weakness we have tried to eliminate." He moved to intercept Lily, one clawed hand reaching for her. Kate raced forward, desperate to protect her daughter, but she was too far away. Lily reached her father's side just as Drazkor loomed over them both. John was barely conscious, but he pushed himself up, placing his body between the alien and his daughter. "You won't touch her," he said through gritted teeth. Drazkor made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species continues to confuse me. You sacrifice yourselves for your offspring, making you easy to control through them. Inefficient." "That's where you're wrong," John said. "It doesn't make us weak. It makes us stronger than you'll ever understand." More resistance fighters had arrived, filling the doorway behind Kate. They carried makeshift weapons and wore expressions of grim determination. Drazkor assessed the situation, his compound eyes taking in the growing number of humans. "You cannot win," he told them. "The Empire will send more ships, more soldiers. Your rebellion will be crushed." "Maybe," said a new voice from the doorway. Hank stepped forward, holding something that made Drazkor pause, a Jacquerie communication device. "But not by you. And not today. We've taken control of your landing pad," Hank continued. "No ships are coming to save you, and this isn't just happening here. Every human settlement is rising up right now." Drazkor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "You lie. The other settlements cannot communicate with each other." "We've been planning this for years," Kate said, moving to stand beside John and Lily. "Hidden messages, coded shipments between settlements. We've been patient." Drazkor seemed to recalculate his options. Even a Jacquerie commander could not fight off so many humans alone. He backed toward another exit, keeping his eyes on the humans surrounding him. John struggled to his feet, supported by Kate and Lily. "It's over, Drazkor. Your rule by fear ends today." The alien commander's response was swift and unexpected. He lunged forward, not at John, but at Lily. His clawed hand slashed out, catching her across the chest before anyone could react. Lily crumpled to the ground, blood soaking through her simple shirt. Kate screamed, dropping to her knees beside her daughter. Drazkor used the moment of shock to bolt for the exit. Several fighters gave chase, but John couldn't move. He stared in horror at his small daughter, now deathly pale as Kate desperately tried to stop the bleeding. "Lily," he whispered, kneeling beside her. "Lily, stay with us." Her eyes fluttered. "Dad? It hurts." "I know, baby. Just hold on." He looked up at Kate, whose medical training was the only hope Lily had now. "Can you help her?" Kate worked with frantic hands, applying pressure to the wound. "The medical center. We need to get her there now." John lifted Lily carefully, trying not to see how small and broken she looked in his arms. Her blood soaked through his shirt as he carried her through the tunnels, running as fast as he dared. Behind them, explosions continued to rock the settlement. The rebellion was succeeding. The humans were taking control. But John couldn't bring himself to care about any of that now. All that mattered was the fading heartbeat of the child in his arms. 3 days passed. The rebellion had succeeded beyond what anyone thought possible. The Ja'Kari forces in Settlement 12 had been overwhelmed, their weapons captured, their ships disabled. Similar victories were reported from other settlements. For the first time in a century, humans controlled their own destiny. But in the medical center, none of that mattered to John Miller. He sat beside a small bed where Lily lay motionless, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Kate had worked tirelessly, using all her medical knowledge to save their daughter, but the wound was severe. Lily had not woken since the attack. "Any change?" Hank asked softly, entering the room. His own arm was wrapped in bandages from the fighting. John shook his head, not taking his eyes from Lily's pale face. "We captured Drazkor," Hank said. He was trying to reach the emergency shuttle. For the first time, John looked up. "Is he alive?" Yes. Some wanted to kill him immediately, but most agreed he should face justice for what he's done. John's hands clenched into fists. "Where is he?" "The detention center. The same cells where they kept our people." Hank hesitated. "There's something else. A Ja'Kari battleship was detected entering our system, its Grand Overseer Vexthal returning." This news should have sparked fear, but John felt nothing beyond the cold rage that had filled him since Lily was wounded. "Let him come," John said. "We'll be ready." After Hank left, Kate entered, looking exhausted from treating the many wounded. "You should rest," John told her. Kate sat beside him, taking his hand. "I keep thinking about what Lily said, about being scared of Drazkor. We should have protected her better." "We will make them pay," John promised. "All of them." That night, while Kate finally slept in a chair beside Lily's bed, John slipped out of the medical center. He walked through the settlement, now patrolled by human guards instead of Ja'Kari soldiers. The streets were damaged from the fighting, but already being repaired. People nodded to him as he passed, word of Lily's condition having spread throughout the community. At the detention center, he showed his resistance badge to the guards. "I need to see the prisoner," he said. The guards exchanged looks but didn't argue. They led him to a cell where Commander Drazkor sat, his 4 arms bound behind him, his once gleaming armor now dull and damaged. "Human John Miller," Drazkor said when he saw him. "Have you come to kill me?" "No," John replied. "I've come to tell you something." He stepped closer to the cell, his voice low and controlled despite the rage burning inside him. "You thought you understood us. You thought our love for our children was a weakness, something you could use against us." Drazkor's mandibles clicked. "It was effective for a century, and it will be your downfall," John said. "Because you never understood what happens when you harm a human child. You've never understood what we become." He showed Drazkor a small communication device. "I just received word that Vexthal's ship will arrive tomorrow. He thinks he's coming to crush our rebellion." "He will," Drazkor said. "His battleship carries enough firepower to destroy this entire settlement." John smiled, a cold expression that made even the alien commander pause. "We're counting on that. We've evacuated all civilians to the emergency bunkers. We've rigged the settlement with enough explosives to destroy any ship that gets close enough. And we've sent a message to every Ja'Kari world." "What message?" Drazkor asked. "That the age of fear is over. That humans don't surrender when you threaten us. We plan. We wait. We prepare. And when you cross the line, when you harm our children, there is no power in the galaxy that will save you from us." John turned to leave, then paused. My daughter might die because of you, but because of her, your entire empire will fall." The next morning, Vexthal's battleship appeared in the sky above Settlement 12. It hovered there, massive and threatening, a symbol of Jacquerie power designed to inspire terror. John stood with Kate in the medical center, watching through the reinforced windows. They held each other's hands tightly, their eyes fixed on the alien vessel. "Are you sure?" Kate asked. John nodded. "Everyone is safe. The bunkers will protect them." As the battleship began its attack run, targeting the settlement's center, a small hand suddenly squeezed John's. He looked down in shock to see Lily's eyes open, watching him with confusion. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice weak but unmistakably alive. "What's happening?" John and Kate both fell to their knees beside the bed, joy breaking through the darkness that had consumed them. "We're winning, Lily," John told her, tears streaming down his face. "We're finally winning." Outside, the trap was sprung. The Jacquerie battleship exploded in a ball of flame, illuminating the sky like a second sun. The message was clear across the galaxy. They had ruled by fear, until killing a human child brought hell upon them.